presentation. And next up, we have Molly, and I haven't got your slides up here, and that is Everything is Everywhere. I think there's a film of that title, isn't there?
Something like that, wasn't it? Yeah, hi, I'm Molly James. I'm working at the Plymouth Marine Laboratory at the moment. I've had a bit of an introduction to what I'm going to talk to you about already from both Aniel and Stephen. But yeah, my work has looked at connectivity using larval dispersal modelling and network analysis in the hopes of using this as a spatial management tool for the commissioning and decommissioning of artificial structures. So I'm not going to give you a massive insight into the DREAMS project because we've covered it to death in the last few talks. But so we do know that oil and gas infrastructure and increasingly offshore energy installations are prolific features in the marine environment. And there's a considerable debate into how we can decommission these structures when they approach end of life. And we're not entirely sure, as Steve evidenced in his last thing, what the best option may be. There's a lot of different ecosystem services that benefit or suffer from all the different options that we've got available. So understanding marine connectivity patterns may help to shed light on this decommissioning dilemma and provide us insight into how the placement of existing, new or repurposed infrastructure could be strategically undertaken in order to minimise disruption to the functioning of ecosystems, while also contribute to environmental, economic and societal sustainability. So with this in mind, the aim of my work is to develop a spatial management strategy for the commissioning and decommissioning of structures that considers potential changes to the ecological cohesion and community structure within an area. So if the aim is to determine if structures should be left in place, repurposed elsewhere, removed entirely, with a view to enhance, maintain or constrain connectivity, then arguably we need to undertake a regional analysis of connectivity that extends beyond existing infrastructure locations. So what we've done here is use a combination of hydrodynamic modelling using the FVCOM ocean model, particle tracking using PyLag, the Python Lagrangian model, and network analysis using graph theory. We've created a relocatable generalised tool to try and help answer these questions. We've developed a novel everything is everywhere approach to connectivity within a region that allows for the identification of potential hotspots of connectivity. Just to go over a little bit of what I did in the experiment setup here, we created a 30 by 30 kilometre grid over the North Sea domain, and we released particles from the centroid of each cell, forced by the hourly output of FVCOM. Here we show the grid overlaid with the locations of the existing oil, gas and wind structures obtained from OSPAR and from EMODnet. So what we've done here is a presence-absence sort of thing. So we've obviously released everything from the centroid of everything. We haven't considered the density of structures within each cell. We've just said they're there, they're not. So in the everything is everywhere scenario, everything is released from the centroid of all of them. And then I've got another scenario for comparison where I only release it from cells where a structure was present, but there's no sort of density weighting within that. So particles were constrained to the surface waters and considered passive. And if they hit land, they were reflected back into the model. And this just maximised the potential dispersal that we got out of the model output. And we released 100 particles from each cell each day at midnight over a 14-day period. This captured a tidal variation in timing release. And we released them in February and July over a 4-year period from 2011 to 2014 to capture seasonality and interannual variation. In total, just over 6.5 million particles were... Oh, that's too far. Sorry. Red. It doesn't like me. Sorry. There we go. Cool. In total, just over 6.5 million particles were tracked from 28 days from release, and particle positions were recorded 7, 14, 21 and 28-day intervals to encapsulate a range of potential planktonic larval durations. We collated all of these results for all of the different seasons, all the different years, all of the different PLDs to give an overview of connectivity that could be generically applied to the region over a range of temporal scales and considers connectivity at a multi-species level rather than looking at the individual traits of a single species. So once we did the particle tracking runs, we took the outputs and we generated connectivity matrices using a package in R called iGraph and an approach called graph network theory. So graph theory is used to model pairized relations between objects, and graph network theory extends on these principles to analyze and model complex systems as networks. For each cell or node in iGraph terminology, I generated a number of metrics which I used to quantify the connectivity. So the metrics I used were the in degree, the out degree, and the node betweenness of each node. So this information told me the importance of each cell as a source for particles. So this is the out degree. Conversely, it gives me the importance of each cell as a sink location, so how many particles from other cells end up in that cell. And finally, we've got the betweenness. So this is the extent that a cell acts as a stepping stone or a bridge along the shortest path between two other cells. I then used a fast, greedy community detection algorithm to identify communities of densely connected nodes where intraparticle exchange was high and interparticle exchange was low. This is just a graphic visualization. It's just an illustrative example of the type of output that I get from that. So don't take anything sciencey from that. It's just to show you. But yeah, we're looking to identify these communities of which cells are more closely linked together. In addition to these connectivity metrics, I used the output of the FECOM ERSEM model, which Anal mentioned in her talk earlier, to provide spatial estimates of productivity using phytoplankton carbon biomass as the proxy. The rationale behind the inclusion of this is that larvae in their early stages rely really heavily on planktonic organisms as their primary food source. Therefore, adequate primary productivity ensures the availability of food for their growth and survival. So the plots on this slide display the importance of each cell within the North Sea for each of the explored metrics. In the absence of information related to the relative importance of each of the metrics to connectivity, I considered everything equal. So I normalized the results and scaled it between 1 and 0 for each of the individual metrics. So across the domain, we observed spatial variability in the importance of each cell for each of the explored characteristics. Under Everything is Everywhere, cells throughout the middle of the North Sea were important sources, as we can see from the red plot up here. And the highest value sink cells are aggregated in the northeastern North Sea along the coast of Denmark and Norway. We can also identify a small number of particularly important stepping stone locations with node betweenness values greater than 0.8. Thank you. And these occurred in the centre of the North Sea between sort of 54 and 60 degrees latitude. And we see higher productivity more closely associated with the coast, although we do get this area along the southern North Sea as well. So we ran network analysis to identify communities under two scenarios: Everything is Everywhere and the existing structures. So with the existing structures, we see 5 communities here. However, when we look under the Everywhere is Everything approach, sorry, that's quite hard to say, we identify 5 different communities. So this is really important because when we're looking at things just looking at the existing structures, we're seeing like 50% of all of our model particles, we're not finding out where they go. So by considering everything is everywhere, we're sort of encompassing this. And we can see that sort of the blue and the green communities are actually probably quite interconnected, as are the red and the blue ones, the red and purple ones down the bottom here, when we look at things with the everything everywhere approach. So from I've lost my mouse. I'll go rogue, it's fine. So from a decommissioning perspective, it's really good to know where things could possibly be connected to. So I've combined all of these metrics together to give us this overlying connectivity importance index on the left side with everything everywhere, and on the right looking at existing structures. And we can see that there is quite a big difference spatially on which areas are important when we consider connectivity from all these different areas. Crucially, we're missing this significant hotspot in the, why does it keep doing that? In the northern North Sea. You see this really, really dark red spot using everything everywhere that we're just not picking up when we're just looking at existing structures here. We also see greater connectivity in the central North Sea in regions where structures are present when we extend our view of connectivity beyond existing infrastructure. So this central area here, we do have existing oil and gas structures. And when we look at connectivity just between the structures, that doesn't look particularly connected. if we look at the bigger picture, it seems that they are quite connected there. If we look at the distribution of the CII scores, we can see that it's positively skewed, with the majority of scores concentrated towards the lower end of the scale, and scores with like sort of scores between 2 and 5, suggesting that cold spots are more common within the region than hot spots. Understanding the spatial distribution of both cold and hot spots is useful from a management perspective, depending on whether our objectives are to enhance or diminish connectivity. So the integrated CII indicated a small number of cells with really high CII values, these dark red maps on the dots on the map, sorry. And these fall in very similar regions to where we're seeing these stepping stones. And actually, these stepping stones are in a really similar location to where we've got existing structures at the moment. There was a study by Tidbury in 2020 that showed that this area, if decommissioning of the structures in this area would have a massive effect on decreasing connectivity. And our study shows here, well, it's in agreement with that, but we've shown that without knowing where the structures are. So in terms of management of a space, it's cool that we're able to predict these things without actually having that insight to where the structures already are. So we can use the output of our scenario from a decommissioning perspective to optimise connectivity, whether we want to enhance it or reduce it. So out of the cells that had structures in originally, it was 212 of the original 582 cells. So if we move them around, we can see where we should be putting those cells if we want to enhance connectivity in the area on the left-hand side or reduce it on the right. So this approach clearly demonstrates how current structures in the central and southwest North Sea are important contributors to connectivity, and conversely, how current structures near the coast in the southern North Sea have a limited impact on connectivity. So just to give you a little bit of an overview of everything that I've discussed here, modelling and network analysis can provide valuable insight into connectivity between marine communities. Regional analysis of connectivity that extends beyond existing infrastructure locations can act as a useful tool for management of commissioning and decommissioning of marine structures. And the methodology that we describe herein provides a relocatable method of quantifying the maximum potential networks within a region. And this can be applied with or without the knowledge of existing habitats and be used to inform spatial planning in the marine environment. Thank you.